2, 3. Welcome to Paidaxiology. Conversations on the value of children.
I think you need ADHD, honestly, to have as many children as we do.
I am so pleased to introduce Bethany Mandel, a homeschooling mother of 6 based in the DC area. She's co-author of Stolen Youth, and she writes and podcasts at Mom Wars. Welcome to the Paidaxiology Podcast, Bethany.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to become a listener of this show.
You are not only a listener, you are almost the first episode. You are the second episode, so this is really big deal.
I love it.
Yeah, we are learning as we go here on this podcast, but the idea is to just investigate ordinary moms. We know that you think of yourself as an ordinary mom, even if you're not ordinary in all respects, but we are all ordinary in our love for our children. All right, so I always start with this icebreaker, which is, what is the strangest or most memorable comment you've received from a stranger about your family in public?
So there's always the standby. Well, I think there's the 2 standbys. There's the silent counting that always happens with the eyes, where I can see someone looking and I know what they're doing and it's counting. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you have your hands full. Mm-hmm. That's always what I get when I leave my house. Yeah. The most outrageous comment, better you than me, honestly.
Huh. Wow.
And I responded, yeah, clearly. It's good you didn't have a lot of kids, if that's how you feel about them. I thank God feel differently. I think that really annoyed me because it's always old ladies. Mm-hmm. And that annoyed me because it was in front of kids who understood what she was saying. And they kind of looked at me. I'm a little bit of a combative person, not surprising when you know that I work in politics and whatever. Yeah. And so my kids looked at me and they all took a deep breath and waited to see what I would do, because I'm not a shrinking violet. And so they were scared that I would get into a fight with her. Sometimes they want me to fight with people in public, but that time they didn't want it.
Amazing. Your comment about older ladies reminded me of the last strange comment I got from an older lady. She took me aside and she started going through all her reasons why she stopped at 2. And this is like back in the 70s, and I'm thinking, I don't need to know. I'm not judging you. So strange. Does that happen to you?
Yeah. 100% of the time, people justify themselves to me. Yeah. And I found this also, honestly, with like when I would breastfeed in public, people would tell me why they didn't breastfeed. And I was like, I didn't ask you. Yeah. I just feed my baby.
I don't know what that's about. That sort of, I've had guys approach me too in public and just, look at me pregnant and say like, this is why I got a vasectomy. And I'm like, I don't need to know.
I think people feel judged by our decisions. I think that is what it is, that they feel like we're show-offs by having 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it is. And it's not a contest to me. So we used to joke, and now I can't make this joke anymore, that I kept having them because I never hit a dud. But I don't want my 6th to think he was the dud, because we're done now. Yeah. So I need a better joke, because I can't say we haven't hit a dud yet. We have never hit a dud. I'm the dud now. Yeah. We've hit our limit. We have no more room in the car. We have no more room in the house. Yep. And it's a good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell me about your children. So ages,
my oldest just turned 12, and we have girl, boy, boy, girl, boy, boy. Right now, it's the perfect simulation because they're all the same. It's odd or even sometimes. Okay. And so right now it's all even. So 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. I love it when it does that. Yeah. I'm about to lose that next month. My youngest is turning 3. It's funny. I never pictured myself as a boy mom. And now I have 4 boys and 2 girls, and we're outnumbered very much.
Amazing. All right. So I'm going to ask you about when you thought you might like to have more than 1.5 kids. When you got married, did you always know that you wanted to have 6 children?
No.
Where does it come from? Tell me that story. How did you become the mom that you are?
It's hard to pinpoint it. When we moved to the Washington area, I was pregnant with our 4th. I had just found out I was pregnant like the week we moved. Okay. And I remember meeting Tim and Katie Carney.
Mm-hmm.
Tim is at AEI, and well, he's still at the Examiner. We're not at the Examiner anymore, but my husband was coworkers with him for a long time. And they have 6. And I remember coming home and saying to Seth, that is too many. There is no way. And Katie said something to me that I found very depressing at the time. She said, the only time I get quality one-on-one time with a kid is in the emergency room. And I thought, oh, kind of dark.
Yeah.
I don't want that. And so that I can say for certain. When I was pregnant with my 4th, I didn't think we were going to go past 4. And then we had our 4th, and so we had 2 boys and 2 girls. It's perfect. Why mess with a good thing? And then I was looking for a sign from God to have a 5th. I was actively searching it out. And Deseret magazine came to me and asked me to write a long form piece about big families. And I ran downstairs to the basement to where my husband was working. And I said, Joseph Smith sent me a sign. And he was like, what? We're Jewish. And I said, this is the magazine piece that they asked me to write. And wouldn't it be a great lead in the piece to say that I'm pregnant with my 5th? And he was like, or not. He was totally supportive of whatever I wanted to do, one way or the other. But he thought my reasoning was stupid and I was just grasping for straws to have a 5th. And I was 100%. And it took us a while to get pregnant with him. That was definitely the longest. I think it was like 5 or 6 months it took us to get pregnant. And he is a ball of sunshine, just the sweetest I can imagine. And so after him, we were done. And then God had other plans. Now we are done, and we've like taken steps to make that the reality. Whereas I was getting around to it after my 5th. And it wasn't like a purposeful accident. Like it was a real honest to God accident. But I always joke that the thing that makes me question, are we really done, was that God had other plans, and God's plans were very good, because how could we not have him? And it makes us all, because all of us know it was not on purpose. And every kid, me and my husband, we always say, how could we not have him? How could we not have this perfect ball of sunshine? And that makes me second guess, am I done? Because I don't know, God knew what we needed, and we needed that little one. But I still feel done. It was funny. After my 5th was born, I physically and mentally felt done, but I didn't emotionally feel done. I still cried. I still got very teary at all the last moments.
Right.
And this time I'm like, this is nice.
I'm good. Yeah, so it's different. Well, a lady never tells her age. Well, let's just say, how old were you when you had your 5th?
So I can't do math. I am 39 right now.
39.
So I'm running out of runway to change my mind.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think my second to last, my 7th, I felt physically done. It was so hard. I just was like the hardest baby I'd had. And, well, they all got harder. But
That's funny. I didn't have that experience. My last 3 were actually very easy.
Interesting.
And my last 2, it was after my 5th, that birth was amazing. And I don't like childbirth. I'm not one of those people that likes childbirth. And I don't understand those people. And after my 5th, his birth was like picture perfect, really. That was the birth I wanted to ride into the sunset. And I was really upset, honestly, about having to go through it again. And then my 6th, it was to a T the same exact birth. I had it. And so I was like, now I can ride this one into the sunset. This is the done one. And I had him like 2 feet from where I'm sitting right now.
Amazing. When or how did you and Seth meet?
Oh, so that's a little of a scandalous question. So I had made lots of friends in college, as one does. And I was at a party right after I graduated with a number of those friends. And I met a guy who was fine. It was nothing special. And I was planning on leaving to live in Cambodia for a year or 2. And so I was like, well, I'll just date this guy because I don't know, it's something to do before I leave, whatever. And so we're dating, and every single time we get together, he says something about his best friend, Seth. He loves that book. He loves that movie. He just interviewed this person, Jonah Goldberg, David Horowitz, all of these idols of mine. And after a while, I was like, who is this Seth guy? And then he said, he's probably your soulmate. I was like, that's a weird thing to say to someone you're dating. And then I met Seth and I was like, ooh, you're right. Uh-oh. I don't know what to do here. And so I just shamelessly pursued Seth. And then I was living in Cambodia and still talking to the other guy, but not seriously. And Seth and I were talking on GChat, and I broke up with the other guy. So the guy A, I don't want to use his name.
Yeah, sure.
The origin guy.
Yeah.
He had season tickets to the Yankees.
Okay.
And the Yankees were in the World Series that year. And he agreed to take Seth to game 6. And Seth, being a mensch, a nice guy, offered his seat to me if I flew home. And so I offered to the guy, I'll fly home for the World Series. And he's like, no, I'd rather go with Seth. And I was like, I think I'm done here. And so I couldn't even pretend to like him anymore. And so I broke up with him. And then Seth and I were talking on GChat, which was like Google Chat.
Yeah.
And somehow we just like shifted to naming our children without ever like acknowledging that we had feelings for each other or talking about what the implications of that would be.
Yeah.
And so it was funny, at my daughter's bat mitzvah, she just turned 12. I said, we named you on GChat before we ever had a first date.
Wow.
And we did. I said to Seth, this is my first daughter's name. And if you're not on board, then this is over.
Amazing. That's amazing.
And he agreed.
And how long was it between that time and when you got married?
So that's a little bit of a complicated question because we're Orthodox Jews. But the problem was my dad was Jewish, but my mom wasn't Jewish. And so Judaism is matrilineal. And so you have to go through a pretty onerous conversion process in order to be.
Okay.
So we couldn't get Jewishly married until that process was over. So we would have been Jewishly married instantly, but we couldn't because I had to go through that. So it was about a year and a half before we got married.
Did you grow up?
I grew up Jewish, but not Orthodox.
Yeah.
I became interested in it in college, and I was sort of shifting my observance in college and the year that I lived in Cambodia. And then I decided I don't like doing things half. And so I decided, like, I'm just going to go whole hog. And I wanted my kids to not have the same questions that I had because I always felt Jewish my whole life, but I wasn't technically. And a lot of people didn't see me as such. And so I wanted my kids never to have a question. And so I decided I would just go the full distance on the conversion.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, well, help me out with this. You told me about kind of how you went from 4 to 6, but actually what I'm interested in right now is like, how did you go from 1 to 4? Maybe this is partially an Orthodox story, so tell me about it. It's not. Okay, so
not at all.
Did you and Seth both know you wanted to start a family right away?
We didn't. So we had a very stressful first couple years of our relationship with the conversion and family stuff and everything. And so we didn't want to jump into kids right away. But I definitely convinced him that we were for sure going to have infertility issues because my life was not fun and roses. And so I just anticipated God throwing every possible stumbling block in front of me.
Okay.
Thank God I didn't have fertility issues, but I don't know. I'm a pessimist. So I was like, let's just start earlier than he wanted to, honestly. And it was funny because in my argument to him, I said, well, we want to have 3, but what if we want to have more than 3? Then we're going to run out of time. And he's like, well, we're not going to want 3. So this is a moot point. I said, but maybe we will want more than 3. And he disagreed with me, and I got the last laugh. So we had the first, and we tried for a while with her. Not long time, a couple months after I went off the pill, so it takes a little time. Yeah. And I instantly wanted another baby within. I remember saying in the delivery room, I want 7 more of these. And the nurses were like, oh, we don't hear that very often. Yeah. I was just so in love with her right away. And I remember I got a mistake ticket. So the airline accidentally sold really, really cheap tickets to Hawaii. And so we went first class to Hawaii with a 4-month-old for like $300 round trip. Goodness. And so I remember walking in Hawaii holding my 4-month-old and a woman had twins. And I said, there's an expletive involved. I was like, that lady has 2. I want 2. I also knew I definitely didn't want an only child because I was an only child. And so we never tried to prevent anything. And we got pregnant faster than I thought we would with my second. And so They're 17 months apart. And then we weren't really thinking about what next. We were kind of playing it by ear. And then I got pregnant accidentally with a third that I had a miscarriage. And I was really upset. I was surprised at how upset I was.
Yeah.
I'm not Catholic. And so it's like a very different, like, I haven't been as upset about other miscarriages.
Yeah.
Not to sound like a sociopath, but
Sure.
that one I was really upset.
Yeah.
And I was really excited about having a third and then really disappointed that we weren't. And so I kind of took that to be like, I think we should have a third.
Yeah.
I think that's what I really want. So we had the third. That pregnancy was, I had hyperemesis and I was beyond sick.
Yeah.
And we were on the fence about if we were going to have a fourth. We were still kind of talking about it. And then Seth's grandmother, who I loved more than anyone on the planet, passed away. And on her deathbed, her husband, Seth's grandfather, said, have a fourth baby and name her after the grandmother.
Wow.
And he said this right to me, like, as she's flatlining.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
sure, I'll do that. We did.
Okay. All right.
I followed through immediately.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. That's really beautiful. Because you had a girl?
Yes.
Because
So I
I'm like, wait, that's wild. Because, it's
Yeah.
not like you just run out and dial one up.
So I believe, and I'm curious what you think, and if this is ever kind of up, the Shettles method.
The
Are you
timing
familiar?
is the time.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm familiar with it. I've never tried it on purpose myself.
6 out of 6.
Wow. Amazing.
I'm a believer.
That's good enough for me. It's great. Okay, you said a couple things there that are just mind-blowing and I want to unpack. You said you were an only child and you didn't want your baby to be an only child. So unpack that for me a little bit. What was it like growing up as an only child and how did that shape you?
So not great. My parents got divorced when I was 3,
Oh.
maybe a little bit before I was 3.
Okay.
That was good. That was a net positive. My mom shouldn't have been married to my father with a child in the house. My dad had drug issues. He was not responsible. It was dangerous. And it was good that she put me first and said, it's time for you to leave. So my parents were divorced and I was more or less estranged from my father most of my childhood for those reasons.
Yeah.
And so it's just me and my mom. And it was very codependent and very unhealthy. And then my mom passed away when I was 16. And I was the one that had to take her off life support.
Oh.
We had made an arrangement with her friend who was technically the proxy because I wasn't a legal adult. And so my mother told her friend, whatever Bethany wants is what you need to do. She's almost old enough to make this decision and she is mature enough to make this decision. And so I did. It was honestly a very easy decision. I could see so I was living in Belgium for my junior year of high school.
Okay.
And so I got a call from her that she was in the hospital. And so I flew home. And by the time I got home, she wasn't responsive anymore. And there would have been ways they had not read her chart correctly.
Okay.
Or at all, honestly. She had had a similar infection 2 years prior and they didn't put in a central line. Like there was things they didn't do that they should have done. And so we could have gone that route. But by the time I got there, her kidneys had shut down. And so her liver had already shut down, or like basically shut down. She was on a liver transplant list. And because she was in multi-organ failure, she would have been removed from the transplant list completely. So she would have been on dialysis. It would have just been very painful and she would not have lived much longer. And her quality of life would have been so bad.
Yeah.
And so I decided, like, let's just call it and let's take her off the ventilator and not go through, all the antibiotics that worked in the past and I think might have worked again.
Yeah.
And so I decided to take her off life support. After that, making that decision alone, essentially, I didn't have a relationship with her parents. They came right at the end. It was not a good situation having them there.
Yeah.
We didn't have a good relationship. And my father's parents had passed away. And so I was suddenly alone at 16 years old with an estranged father and estranged grandparents. And I didn't have aunts and uncles that I was close to. And I was alone at 16. And it was not optimal at all. And I didn't want that for my kids in like the big ways. And like, losing parents is the big way. But then also, for example, I was in Chicago with my oldest daughter, which I prioritized one-on-one time. So I brought my oldest daughter to Chicago this past weekend. And I realized when I was there, I remember taking a trip with my mom to Chicago when I was like 8 years old. And there were so many parts of it that I didn't remember. And there's no one to ask.
Yeah.
That was just it. All those memories. And so I was like looking through photo albums, trying to piece it together.
Yeah.
And there's no one to talk to.
Did you explicitly think that when you were 16? I mean, you were like looking to your left and to your right.
Yeah. I didn't want to have children. But I definitely didn't want to have one child. I mean, and also just the conflict with my father my entire life. It would have been really nice to have a fellow kid who had the same parents to talk to.
Right.
It was a very isolating, sad experience, especially with all the conflict of the divorce and my mother's illness and all of those things. It really would have been nice to have someone to go through that with. I'm
sorry. That's a really sad story. So I feel like I want to pick up, like, what did you do and how did you survive?
It only gets worse. You don't want to ask me that.
I don't want to know.
It only gets worse.
Oh, my goodness. Fast forwarding a little bit, where did you land in college? Were you in the States? You said you were in Belgium junior year.
Just for high school. So my senior year of high school, I lived, well, I'll tell you where I ended up. I lived with my mother's sister who stole as much money from me as she could and kicked me onto the streets of the East Village in New York City as soon as the Social Security survivor benefits stopped.
Why am I not surprised? You're the kind of person you are. You're not a wilting flower?
No.
Wow.
So that was unfortunate. So that was my senior year. And then my freshman year, I was alone. I was alone and I was 18 years old and had to figure out how to apply to college. And I didn't do it well when you have no guidance.
Yeah.
It doesn't go well.
Yeah.
So I ended up figuring out how to go to City College. It's like one of the city university schools.
Sure.
It's kind of like a community college. It's not very good. So I went there my freshman year, and then I was dating a guy from high school still, and he was at Rutgers, and Rutgers had what I wanted, and I didn't go there for him. He was actually planning on transferring out, but I had been to the campus to visit him enough that I was like, well, it has all the majors that I want. I'm familiar with the campus. There's a big Jewish community. I think I'm in. I think I'm going to go there. And so I transferred there. And then my father committed suicide the next week.
Really does get worse.
It does get worse. So my father committed suicide my first week of my sophomore year when I had finally transferred to a 4-year school. And then it gets even worse.
I'm gonna close this one down and just say, we can't do this to our listeners.
And then my high school boyfriend decided that I was too depressing. And so he broke up with me.
Okay. Wow.
So then I was at Rutgers with no boyfriend and no parents and no money. It wasn't great.
Oh my
gosh. Great. But Rutgers was a great experience for me. I made wonderful friends. I really grounded myself in my Jewish identity in a way that I never was able to before that.
Okay.
And it was funny. I was talking to a friend actually today. So one summer in college, and then right after I graduated college, I was living in Cambodia. And she asked me, why Cambodia? And I said, it's a dark place, and I was in a dark place. And so I felt really safe there and comfortable. And I would tell, people would ask me, where are your parents, whatever, and I would say my parents are dead. And people in Cambodia were just like, yeah, that's normal. 19 years old, your parents are dead. I was met with a nod. And that was so wonderful for me at that moment to not have that cloud hanging over me.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I felt very normal in Cambodia and very comfortable, surrounded by extreme poverty and sadness. That's where I was.
So I have another question. So you are in college with all of these, we'll just say disadvantages that are pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And when you told me earlier, your dad was Jewish, your mom was Catholic. And then in college, you lean into your Judaism, you told me.
Yeah.
But your dad was the estranged dad who was terrible. So explain that to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think the answer is honestly, I have a Jewish soul, and that's just that's just what it was. I didn't ever feel connected to Catholicism. It never hit anything in me. And I asked my mom, what about daddy's religion? First of all, I got all the anti-Semitism because I had his last name. So unfortunately, that was what I knew of it. And she told me, well, Jews are people of the book. And I was like, I love books.
Yeah.
And your favorite food, matzo ball soup, that's Jewish. And I was like, I love matzo ball soup and books. I think I'm sold.
Yeah.
That's it for me. And so I'm a very stubborn person. And that weird decision I made when I was 7.
Yeah.
Here I am at 39.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, that's my funny, joking answer. But it's just like Judaism always spoke to me.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, we're all mysteries to ourselves. But I actually think everybody has a Jewish soul. So I think it's not a bad answer. It's one that resonates with me, at least. A funny thing and a true thing is that the interviews I did for the book, I did about 80% of the interviews, and a colleague did the other, an LDS colleague did the other 20%. And so I'm Catholic interviewing, and she's LDS interviewing. And this was good because we each interviewed a whole bunch of women of different faiths. And before I was even done, I said, you know what, these Jewish interviews, these are my favorites. I mean, you're not supposed to have favorites, but I just thought, like,
they were my least favorite characters in Hannah's Children.
Very, very funny. I was in love with, I just thought, wow, like, they're just so philosophical and just really neat stuff. Whereas my LDS colleague, she confessed to me at some point, she said, I feel really disloyal, but the Catholic interviews are really my favorite. And I thought, like, I'm not into the Catholic interviews.
I was not into the Jewish ones in your book at all.
Very, very interesting and funny. So you leaned into your Jewish identity in college, and then you met Seth after college, a little bit after college, not too long. Yeah. I'm really fascinated by this story of your fourth coming after this family death, because this theme of like death and then babies came up in a number of the interviews, and it wasn't powerful enough to say like this is a major theme, but some of the moms had child loss, and so I really wanted to ask them like, well, but you had another baby, like it didn't crush you, you wanted to keep going. And there was this kind of like little leitmotif of you appreciate life more when you lose it. Is there anything there? Because we don't see death very much these days.
So in Judaism, you're supposed to name after dead people. And so we really wanted to name a daughter after Bubby. We called her Bubby.
Okay.
And I made that promise to Pop, her husband, on the death. And to me, that was like, you don't go back on that.
Yeah.
Because I loved his grandparents more than I loved anyone in this world, except my mother and my husband. They were so kind and so loving. And my first real picture of like what grandparents are supposed to be, I didn't have that with my grandparents, my mother's parents. And so when I met Seth's grandparents right from the gate, they were my grandparents and so loving. And when we announced that we were pregnant with our second, universal negativity from every single person we told. We still had a baby. We were very, very poor.
Oh.
And no one thought we were particularly doing the first one that well. She was wearing lots of hand-me-downs. Seth and I both have ADHD, and so we're very messy people. Yeah. And so we have a very messy house, and we're not grown-ups yet. We're getting there. But we're still about 15 years away from grown-up status, I think. And so no one thought that having a second right out the gate was a good idea. But when we told his grandfather, he slapped his knee and he said, it's about time. And it was such a relief to hear that after the wave of negativity we got from every single person.
Interesting.
Even our niece, who was like 5 at the time, and it's like out of the mouths of babes. When we told her we were pregnant, she said, you already have a baby. Like, yeah, we're going to have another one. And she's like, that doesn't seem like a good idea. And I was like, well, here we are.
I like that thought, the wave of relief, something joyful and hopeful. And
it's interesting. And so having her named after the grandmother was really, really special and really meaningful to us. And it's funny, after October 7th, that was an instinct of mine. I did want to have another baby in response to that, and I know what his name would be.
Yeah.
Honor. He was in one of the shelters, and he was held with a lot of hostages that I came to know after October 7th. And he saved everyone in the shelter. Hamas was throwing grenades in, and he caught them like they were softballs and threw them out. And he did it 7 times, and in the 8th one, he took it. And if we had another baby, I'm just going to put it out into the world. Yeah. Everyone name your son Honor.
Honor.
If we had had a boy, we would have named him Honor. That's to me like, I would love to name a boy after him.
Little tiny regret. Yeah. That's beautiful. And I think that's an ancient instinct. It's like saints and prophets and, kings. I'm going to think about honor. All right, I'm going to get right to it. All right. So we kind of have a good piece of your background, we could keep going. But the first question everybody wants to know is kind of like, how is there not less of you when there are 6 of them? I mean, I'm kind of asking that question about how kids don't diminish us, even though it really does kind of look like it could. And sometimes it does feel like it does. Like I will admit that. But how do you make sense out of that?
So when I was in labor with my second, we dropped my oldest off with my sister-in-law, and I was hysterically crying. What did I do? Why did I do this to her? I'm not going to be just her mom anymore. And now she's only going to have 50% of me instead of 100% of me. And that's so deeply unfair. What did I do? Yeah. And my sister-in-law, bless her heart, I love her. She looked at me and I'm like having contractions and everything. And she's like, your heart doesn't divide. It just grows. She's still going to have the same amount of you, but your heart will grow and it will accommodate him and it will accommodate a next one. You're not dividing yourself. And I remember having him and looking at him and thinking in that moment, Sarah was right. She was absolutely correct. And I have found that every single time. And, my kids are all so different. Like that's the really cool thing, especially when you hit a number like 6, you see all these variations of the people and they're all similar in some ways, but they're very unique people. And I love them all very uniquely. And some of them drive me crazy more than others, but they're all so wonderful that I don't feel like I'm dividing myself. It does feel like, especially if I have a kid out of the house for like a week or two, if somebody's at camp, I'm like, oh, this is easier. Even the oldest kid gone is easier. Yeah. But it feels like something's missing at the same time.
Yeah. It's funny how these kids kind of like worm their way into you. And then, I mean, I'm in that place where they're leaving. Every couple of years, somebody else leaves. And it feels like I have to do this thing all over again because it was like really hard to get used to being a mom. And now it's like I have to get used to like I'm not taking care of them constantly.
I bet that it's as hard as it was with your first and your second and your third. Like, I was just as excited to see my 6th start walking as I was with my first. Like, there's no difference in my level of excitement. Yeah. And I don't think it's going to be any different when they leave me. I'm going to be sad when my 5th leaves.
Yes. No, it's sobering. I mean, it's sobering and it's great. Of course, there's new things to look forward to. They get married, they have children. That's a whole new world, as they say. But that first sort of sting of like, I built my world around taking care of your every need and then kind of recognizing like they don't need you or they don't need me in that way. I found that just as hard to adjust to as adjusting to being the person they need all the time. And so it seems crazy.
It's funny because I was listening to a speach of yours from BYU. Okay. When did you give that speech? It was like a week or 2 ago. Yeah. So I was listening to it yesterday and I felt a couple of like differences with you on that actually. Yeah. I don't love feeling needed all the time. And you said something that struck me that I was like, oh, I don't feel that way. Yeah. It was towards the end when you said that you like kind of build yourself around them. Yeah. And it's weird to say because I homeschool and I do build myself around them. Yeah. But I really like the weeks that I'm out doing things without my kids. I don't feel like they're my entire identity and reason to act. And I don't think that that's necessarily healthy to have that be like your whole identity. Yeah. I don't know. That might be like my mom's feminist.
So I don't disagree with that. Of course, there's only so much you can put in one soundbite in a moment. I don't disagree with that at all. In fact, I think a lot of times moms working a little bit, is a good thing because it actually helps you not collapse when you're by yourself. And it also helps your kids realize they're not the center of your universe because they shouldn't be the center of your universe in an unhealthy way, right?
Right. So I kind of was.
Yeah. For your mom.
Yeah, because I was just me. And that, by the way, if you want to compare that is extremely unhealthy. Yeah, and it's funny because my 2 little boys, they're 17 months apart, and they're the babies of the family. Yeah. And it's so good that they have each other because we don't idolize them as like the baby. Yeah. Because they brutalize each other. Yeah. And so seeing that they are human and that they're not these perfect little
Mm-hmm.
cherubs is healthy.
Yeah, it is.
And my mom didn't have that image of me. My mom
Yeah.
always thought I was faultless and blameless in all things, and that's not.
Yeah.
That's how you make a narcissist.
That's probably right. I was going to say maybe we need to bring into this picture marriage, right? So if my husband were the fly on the wall right now, he'd be saying, well, right, like the marriage should be sort of the center of the family universe. That's sort of one of his themes, and part of his genius is like always planning the date nights, always kind of figuring out like when we're going to reconnect. And I do think that's a wonderful kind of barrier to that type of like raising a narcissist. Like, so your children are this great source of joy, but your marriage is the foundation.
Yeah. And we tell them that.
Yeah.
They always say, "Why is Daddy your favorite?" And I say, "Because he's not going to leave me."
Yeah.
You are.
100%.
I only have 6 more years with you.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, this is great. These are good observations and true. And I agree with them. Maybe marriage is a good place to go next. So that's that other thing that people kind of think. Obviously, we could point to all the dumb articles, the Vox magazine articles every other week, how your marriage is going to die when you have your child like changed and not for the better. But what is the truth, or at least what is your truth? How does it work in your marriage? Your kids make it worse.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Yeah.
You figure out how to, do things with,
Yeah.
a locked door in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Definitely adds excitement.
Right.
But I mean, we kind of prioritize that affection
Right.
at all costs at all times.
Yeah.
And I found that, so our third baby was accidentally born in Seth's car.
Gosh.
We were halfway to the hospital, and it was scary. I think that's the understatement of the year.
Yeah.
And I felt so bonded to him after that birth. And I felt our marriage was like strengthened so much by that experience.
Interesting.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. Don't plan it. Don't plan it that way.
But that birth felt different. He was my support person for my first 2 and I couldn't have done it without him.
Yeah.
But that third was like really, it felt like a life or death moment. And I knew he was there. I knew he had me, and he had us.
Right.
And he's like a little bit of a nervous person, but in that moment, I'm screaming like, "Do this!" And he's like, "I'm already on 911. We're good. Get a towel." And he's like, "I've got a sweatshirt right here." But yeah, no. So that birth, I think, really bonded us. But I think also I read something somewhere that always struck me, and I like latched onto that children who see their parents being affectionate, it makes them feel safe.
Makes them feel safe.
Yeah. And so we joke, my oldest son, my 10-year-old son, hates when we kiss. And so he runs and tries to stop us. And it's like a joke. And we always say, "Well, dude, we're just trying to make you feel safe. Okay." And he's like, "I feel safe. Please stop."
Yep.
But yeah, no,
That's too funny.
my kids complain that we're too affectionate, and it's disgusting.
Yeah. It's pretty gross.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
I'm not sorry. My youngest 2, my little boys, they love to get in the middle of it and like kiss, and they ask us to kiss, but the older kids are like, "This is vile."
Yeah. That's too funny. Where does this come from? Where do you think it comes from that people intuitively sort of think like your kids are a problem for your marriage? Because once you spell it out, it's kind of absurd on the face. But
yeah, I mean, I can see it, especially if you don't have a good marriage. Like the nights where you have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're covered in vomit, like there's definitely an opportunity there to feel like the other person isn't doing their share and feeling frustrated and all of those things. But I feel like kids are magnifying glasses on a marriage. If your marriage is good, it's great.
Yeah.
But if your marriage is bad, it goes bad south.
Right.
And we always talk about, between us as a couple, but also as a family, that we're a team. And this only works if we all work together. Yeah. And that team mentality has, carried through with our kids very, very well. But I can see the resentment absolutely bubble in. If you don't feel like the other person is doing their hardest, and sometimes they're not doing their hardest, or if you just attribute bad faith. When we were very early in our marriage, we had like a rocky start. And a lot of it was because I was a narcissist, because I didn't know how to communicate because I was an only child.
Yeah.
And when we both stopped assuming bad faith of the other was when our marriage got better instantly.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest lesson from that time of, that year, that first year, always assuming that my husband meant well. And he is trying his hardest because he is a good man.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people can't make that assumption, and sometimes for good reason.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because you've seen the other side. Yeah. My parents' marriage fell apart too. So not as tragic as yours, but it is always.
I think it was good that my parents got divorced when I was so young.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see it fall apart.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a bad image of marriage in a way that a lot of children of divorce, I think, do.
Yeah. I love your point about like good faith, or assuming good faith. The thing that my husband and I agreed to do early on, and I don't think this came from me, I think it came from him. So I'm going to give him the credit, was don't ever start an argument or discussion with "you always."
Yes. I feel.
Yeah.
You center it on yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
That was what we learned from our marriage counselor.
Yeah.
I feel
100%. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a little bit about the kids. Your oldest is 12. The first mom I interviewed last week, she homeschools all her kids, 13 kids,
nice.
Homeschools all of them. I'm a little concerned that I'm setting a bad precedent here, that people think everybody with a lot of kids has to homeschool, which isn't true, obviously. Why do you homeschool, and how does that play into the kind of family you're building?
So Jewish day school, the parochial schools are very expensive.
Yeah.
$25, $30 a year per child.
Yep.
And we're not smart like Catholics and give discounts really.
No.
It just multiplies.
It just multiplies.
And
25 times 6.
Yeah. And so after tax too. And so
Amazing.
We decided when we had our first two that we were going to throw caution to the wind. And because we couldn't afford to send one to school, let alone two, let alone however many we thought we were going to have. And so I had followed a lot of Christian, because homeschooling is not popular in the Jewish world at all.
Yeah.
And I followed a lot of Christian women, mostly on Instagram, who homeschooled.
Okay.
And I said, that looks nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Seth was correctly concerned that I can be kind of flaky.
Flaky is not what I would associate with you.
I'm a very good starter, but not a good finisher.
Okay.
And so he was concerned that I wouldn't follow through enough.
Okay.
And thinking over the last couple of weeks, is he wrong? Not really. We've been puttering the last few weeks.
Yeah.
But we kind of decided, what do we want more? More Jewish children or what everyone else does?
Yeah.
And we're not normal people. And so we didn't want to just do what everyone does.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to have the number of kids we wanted to have. And so we decided that we were going to try homeschooling. Yeah. And so my oldest daughter was in kindergarten in 2020.
Wow. Okay. I'm that sounds like a long time ago now, which is odd, but yeah.
Yeah. So that worked out that she was in kindergarten that year.
Yeah.
And so every year, we've never considered sending to school.
Yeah.
We've done co-ops, we've done a part-time preschool. Yeah. Today I decided I think I'm going to send the 6th to a full-time preschool next year, just because I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I just need a break.
Yeah.
He's very high needs, and getting things done with 5 other children and working, because I also work basically full-time.
Yeah.
Something's got to give, and it's going to be him. Yeah. And it's better for him anyway. He needs the stuff that's more age appropriate for him. And when my older 2 kids were his age, that was all I had. So I did age appropriate stuff. And then my 3rd and my 4th went to the part-time preschool. And so they got that itch scratched. And he needs it. Yeah. He needs the cutting and the pasting and the crafts and the singing. And he loves it. And so I think it's nice to do for him also.
Yeah.
So the homeschooling just sort of made sense with the finances, but now also, that we're 7 years in. Yeah, she's in 6th grade, so we're 7 years in. It's just really nice. Yeah. So on Wednesday, we're going away until New Year's.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
We're going to Greece for a week and then Israel for over a month. And so
wonderful.
you can't do that if
You
your
can't
kids are
do that.
in school.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so having
Yeah.
the flexibility to like drive up and see Seth's parents on a Friday is so nice. Having the flexibility to you decide, I'm going to bring my older 2 kids on a work trip to Florida in February, or bring my oldest daughter to Chicago on a work trip.
Yeah.
And so we wouldn't have that
Yeah.
freedom.
So much that, I mean, a lot of people say, but I homeschool one now. I used to homeschool more. They say like, but you work so much. I said, yeah, but you know what this means is that her life is on my schedule.
Exactly.
And as a working mom, that's incredibly valuable.
Mhm.
When you're on a collision course with the school, I mean, that is stress. But this is not stress.
That's the thing that stresses me out, honestly, about enrolling him in this preschool. And I'm going to talk to them about it tomorrow, is that I'm just going to say, like, there's going to be a week or two where we're going to decide to go to Colonial Williamsburg.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'll still pay for it. But
Yeah.
like, I don't want to get the guilt. I don't want to get the like, oh, he's late. I'm like, we're probably going to be late every day.
Yeah, exactly.
And if
I know.
if that's not okay, then like, let's be honest about it. And I'll put him somewhere more laid back. But that to me is the thing that makes me most nervous. My oldest daughter is in 7th grade next year. And I strongly think that her first school experience should not be middle school. No, that doesn't sound like a good intro.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to send her to high school.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem interested. She gets a taste of all the girl drama when she's at summer camp. She goes for a full month to summer camp. And she wrote me letter after letter this year. There's so much drama. And I'm like, yep, welcome to preteen girls.
Yeah.
It's only going to get worse.
That's another thing that, again, I mean, this is not a pro homeschooling pod here, but that point about the drama, it's interesting because what's happening is when your daughter growing up, when she spends most of her time around you, she can modulate all of her expectations about social life from an adult.
Yes.
And like, we're still works in progress, but we're not 13.
Right.
Whereas I think our children in school, their expectations about what is a normal reaction to have are based on immature human beings. And so to this whole socialization point, I always think like, why do we want to socialize 12-year-olds around a whole bunch of 13-year-olds? Like
exactly.
Like
exactly. I always say the socialization is a feature and not a bug of homeschooling.
Yeah.
And also, like, we're not immune to the vices of this world by sending to a Jewish day school.
Yeah.
There's still kids who watch things on their phones that they shouldn't. And I don't want my kids around those kids. I don't think that in Judaism, we call them midos, and it's like values, sort of. And I don't think a lot of the kids have nice midos. They're not the kids I want my kids to be like.
Yeah.
And with homeschooling, I really have a lot of say who my kids spend their time with. And I wouldn't if I sent them, with everyone else.
Yeah. So schooling's huge. What are the other tips or thoughts on how expensive is it to have 6 kids? You just hear that a lot. Like, I can't because it's costly. How do you make it work? You guys don't seem uber wealthy. I'm going out on a limb here.
No, when we lived in New Jersey, we didn't have working heat. So
yeah, there you go.
So the only real cost for us that is exponential is summer camp. And that's something that we've taken on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we felt like with the homeschooling, we wanted our kids to have a social experience. And so we've prioritized financially homeschooling. And so we've prioritized summer camp. And so I work basically to pay for summer camp. I make that very clear. I'm like, this pays for camp. So that is the only thing that makes it sort of exponential.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think that most of my children eat. Maybe that will change one day.
You do have 4 boys, and they're not teenagers yet.
2 of the 4 don't eat, and the girls definitely don't. So I only really feed 2 children.
Yeah.
So that's okay. One day they might.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm 12 years in. So we double up, you know, like we don't need a 7-bedroom house.
Yeah.
We have
Shocking.
every kid at a bunk bed.
Mm-hmm.
The little boys share the small nursery together, and they're like they're little side by side, and there's literally this much room between the crib and the toddler bed.
Yep.
And it's cute because they're really codependent, actually.
Yeah.
I never grew up with someone else in my room because I was an only child. And when my older 2 children were at summer camp this past summer, they were gone for a full month.
Mm-hmm.
And so each of them had a sibling that was alone in their room, and they slept with each other.
Yeah.
Because they were lonely and scared. And they spent most every night that their siblings were gone in the same bed.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
there was months where all 4 of my older children slept in the same room.
Mhm.
And we had mattresses on the floor of the girls' room, and the boys were sleeping there with their sisters.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, we very specifically chose this house
Mhm.
so that we had bedrooms.
Yeah.
You guys should
And
maybe sleep in your own. And they
they
didn't
don't
want
want
to.
it. Yeah.
They don't want to. It's like a sleepover every night. And because we
Yeah.
homeschool, I'm like, well, all
Yeah.
right, if you want to stay up until 11 o'clock talking,
Yeah.
that sounds nice.
This is an underappreciated part of large family life, I think. It came out in some of my interviews for the book. I mean, I wasn't like asking people how they make it work. That wasn't really like part of what I was trying to figure, but it came out in some of them. And from more than one mom, I heard a story like that. Like we try to separate them, but they sneak into each other's rooms at night and they want to stay up and talk. And I don't know. I think at some point in the next 50 years, there's going to be new research on kind of like how that wires their brains when they're little. It's got to make a difference. But you keep hearing these stories like these kids are inseparable. So
Yeah, I think it makes them feel safer. I think, one of my kids, I think, struggles with anxiety, maybe 2 of them, and they are grounding to each other and they make each other feel safe. And they know each other so well, especially because we homeschool.
Right.
They're each other's closest people. And not saying they don't fight, but now my oldest kids, it's so nice. They went from best friends as little kids to arch enemies for years, constant at each other's throats. And summer camp was so clutch for their relationship because they only had each other there.
Yeah.
And so they clung to each other.
Amazing.
And since that first summer at summer camp 2 years ago, they're very close.
Right.
And it hasn't worn off. And it's just really wonderful to see. And I love seeing the different relationships too, because probably the kids that are closest are my 10-year-old son and my 2-year-old son. And they just love spending time together. Today, I was in the shower and my 8-year-old was helping my 4-year-old. There's a Duolingo phonics app on my phone that my 4-year-old loves to play.
Yeah.
And he hit a snag because he's 4. And so he can only get to a certain point before things start to get hard.
Yeah.
And so my 8-year-old, desperate for screen time, was like, I'll sit and I'll help you for an hour while I'm like in the shower and getting dressed and whatever. And so like my 4-year-old, my 8-year-old just sat there together playing on a phonics app.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really nice.
Yeah. It's definitely something to that sort of like natural buddying up. I'm not sure if I have a name for that phenomenon, but I grew up in a large family and there were definitely pairs of older and younger ones. It wasn't created by my parents. It just happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say about that either. But, and also to your point about anxiety, this is interesting because there was a bad marriage. A lot of people say like, well, shouldn't have a lot of kids. They shouldn't have had so many kids. They're going to break up. But I think about my life. I think it wouldn't have been better. Like it wouldn't have been better if there were fewer of us. I mean, it's true in some like philosophical sense where like fewer people suffering or something like that. But I'm not sure that the suffering is the problem. It's being alone when you're suffering, I think is the problem. And so you use the language of grounding, like the siblings are grounding to each other. But we're like all grown adults. We're still grounding to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see it with my husband. He has a younger sister and an older sister, and his older sister helped. She's like the co-mom of their family, the way that my oldest daughter is the co-mom of my family. Like when I go see the preschool tomorrow, I'm like, do you want to come? Because I know you have questions.
Yeah.
Seth isn't going to come, but you maybe should. Maybe you have some questions
This is
as
great.
the other mom here.
Yeah.
But Seth's sisters, I don't know how we would go through the aging process with his parents without there being 3 of them. And his sisters take on the lion's share because they're both in New Jersey and we're here. But never having thought about having aging parents because I knew I wouldn't have them.
Yeah.
I'm only now realizing in the last couple of years, like, wow, it is really nice to have 3 siblings. There was a time where something happened with Seth's parents and Seth had to go up and live with his parents for a week. And thank God, he was able to do that. And his one sister lives literally next door. The other sister lives down the block. And the 2 sisters like basically take care of their parents in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people don't consider the toll that elder care takes.
Yeah.
And I would not want to put that on just one person. It's really hard.
Yeah. This is a storm that's coming, it seems like, right? Because we're going to
Yes.
have just a massive number of people aging and then a declining workforce. So it
Yep.
won't even be like you could just easily buy care. And of course, we all know you can't buy that kind of love and
Loving care.
attention. No,
Yes.
right. Exactly. It's a grievous situation. I think it will be very
Yeah.
grievous for people. All right. So the $1 million question, why do you think people don't want to do this? Why do you think people don't want to have even a couple of kids at this point? We're seeing this in a lot of the data, interviews of young people. It's like, okay, so they'll say they want to have kids. Kids still is on the list, but it's like at the bottom of the list. This is the huge thing. So if you just ask people like straight up, do you still want to get married? Do you still want to have kids? And you get a yes. But if you ask them to rank it, you often see it's like way below, job and success and traveling and like 10 other things. What gives?
So I think it has a bad rap. I wrote a piece for Deseret News a long time ago, and the headline that I suggested that it was used, I think, on like the metadata or something was motherhood has a PR problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of it. And I really fault a lot of moms here because people marinate in negativity, and it's seen in our culture that victimhood is a badge of honor that people want to wear. And so people make themselves into martyrs about it. And like, is motherhood hard? Yeah. I don't complain about it. And I think a lot of that perspective is like, I've had it very hard. But I rarely talk about it, actually. Like, I've never spoken this much about my childhood on any other media appearance ever. And I only did because it's very relevant to this conversation. But it's not my identity. I'm not, I'm prideful in that I was resilient. I'm not prideful of the experience, if that makes sense. I'm not proud of being a victim. And so I think that mothers portray it as martyrdom. And I think that this happens on the left and the right. On the left, it's like you're going to destroy yourself by having a mother.
Right.
And the messaging on the right, on the conservative side, is like, it's good. And I disagree with both. I'm like, but it's not. You're not martyring yourself.
No.
It's delightful. I have a friend, her name is Jessie Bridges. She's really thoughtful, wonderful. She tweeted the other day, and I retweeted it this morning, and I'm looking down right now to try and find the tweet because it was so brilliant. So she was talking about her decision to have 5 kids and, why people are not doing it. And she said, I can't understand why people don't want kids. I mean, I have my own posse that I made. They're my favorite people, my hype team, my roadies, my personal fan club. We share loads of inside jokes and hobbies, and people willingly miss out on it. What a shame. And I think that people don't realize that that's what it is. They think it's terrible. And I think that my eyes were opened to the possibility of having a lot of kids when Seth and I were in Israel when I was pregnant with our oldest. I was very newly pregnant, and we went to visit a friend that we had made on Twitter named Evan. And he had 8 children.
Wow.
And we went for a random dinner, and one of his children, it was his birthday that night. And so all 7 kids put the kid on a chair and started singing to him happy birthday. And we looked at each other and we were like, this is nice. And I always feel like I'm a little bit evangelizing when people come to our home. Because I want people to see, like, this is really nice.
Right.
Like, going back to your first question, like, what's the terrible question or statement that's been made to me, better you than me? And I'm like, thank God. Thank God I had 6 kids. And when people say to me, wow, you have your hands full, I answer, thank God. And I don't think people recognize the blessing that children are and the fun that children are. And this you hit on very well in your BYU speech. Because they are just, we don't need them anymore. They're a thing that we want. But they're great.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you'd be on team information, which is like, we do more information, more sharing these stories. Like, this could move the needle.
Yes, 100%. I felt swayed also by Jen Fulwiler a lot because I read her books, and her and I are very similar. She wanted to do all the things professionally, but she also wanted to have the 6 kids, and she figured out how to do it imperfectly. And she was very open about her imperfections. She wasn't on Pinterest. She wasn't planning birthday parties. And she didn't center herself around her children. And I do think that's unhealthy. And my oldest daughter is giving me guilt about putting my youngest son in a preschool next year. And I'm like, well, I'm a human with needs. And
Yeah.
I can't work full time and homeschool 5 children and do all that. Like something has to give. The thing that's going to give is the education for your younger brother and the attention. And so he's going to get it elsewhere for a couple hours a day, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's
We'll
okay.
all survive. And so I think giving people an honest portrayal, and I hear this a lot from my social media. People say, thank you for being real and honest.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, one of my sons thinks that like it's funny not to change his underwear. And so he will go like 3 weeks without changing his underwear. And I don't know. I don't keep track of these things. I have too many kids to keep track of who's wearing what underwear.
It's such a great remedy for helicopter parenting or overparenting or whatever that is. Like, look, some things are just, I don't have the bandwidth. Then you read these like serious trademark research studies and they're like, well, we figured it out. Like, you have to kind of intentionally neglect certain parts of and it's like, I'm not sure I could do that on purpose, but actually it's super easy to do if you just like the bandwidth is gone. I'm not monitoring all your homeworks, like not doing it. So you got what you got. It's like very real. It's so interesting. The other thing that's sad about this, if it's true that people don't know the blessing, they don't know what, like they have one or two. I've thought a lot about this because I've talked to people. And then by the time their kids are growing, and you said like your friend Jesse's comment, you have this posse that you made. By the time they realize, oh my goodness, like this is kind of fun. We do have these people. It's too late. But you're sort of like, oh, we could have done another one. It would have been awesome.
Yep.
So if that's true, it should be the case that if we share that enough, like people will start to think about it.
I went to London with my older 5 children in May by myself. I brought 11 to 3 all alone to London. It was the best week of my life.
That's awesome.
It was so much fun.
That's great.
The year before, I brought my older 3 kids to Paris for a week. That was also the best week of my life. Because you make people that you love.
Yeah, exactly. Such a wild thing. And then, I mean, 10X when they're 25, I'm here to tell you, because they're adults that you really love, but they're your friends too. You share interests, but you're not the same, but you've known them forever. I mean, it's like just wild. It's just wild.
Yeah.
You meet them in another city and you have drinks and you think, I made you. But also like you made me in a lot of weird ways. And meaning like I grew up with you. And that's just, there aren't words. There aren't words. It's so great.
Yeah. And that's something I also loved from Jen Fulwiler, seeing her say that like the first couple years, by couple, I mean decade, she's very open. It was very difficult.
Yes.
And now, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God they all have each other.
Yeah.
And so I always credit Jen for being the mom influence that I needed, because you do need to see someone doing it. And seeing Jen do it was really inspiring to me.
That's so great. First of all, I didn't know this connection. Second of all, like, does she know this?
So I mentioned it briefly in an Instagram comment very recently.
Okay. Well, if she doesn't know it, maybe we can send her a clip at least. A couple final closing questions and then anything else you want to get in. We're kind of dancing around it, which is this question of what kids need to have a happy childhood. A lot of this overparenting seems to be coming from that place where parents really want to invest to give their kids like the best and the happy, good life. And yet it seems almost hard for people their kids, their relationships aren't fulfilling a lot of times. So from a mom of 6 to the world, how do you think about that question, making your kids happy?
I think that they need to feel safe and secure. I think that's the number one thing that any child needs. My childhood was imperfect, but I always felt safe. And my mom always prioritized me in a healthy and safe way. And so I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, that was really messed up.
Yeah.
But I never felt like it in the moment. And that brings me a lot of comfort when I feel like I'm parenting imperfectly, which is all the time.
Yeah.
I think my mom parented through no fault of her own 10 times more imperfectly than I did or than I am. And I turned out great.
Yeah.
And my mom did a great job.
Yeah.
And it was because I felt loved and I felt appreciated. I think that a lot of the way that people talk about their children now is really toxic.
Yeah.
And I think that children need to know that they are loved and appreciated and valued for the individuals that they are.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way.
So you're a better parent than you think you are, and it's not the stuff or the experiences or whatever. I've got this last question I want to pitch you, and then anything you want to talk about. There's been a lot of buzz in the internet in the last couple weeks about Shabbat dinner at your house. And I just thought I couldn't finish.
Do you want to come?
I want to come, first of all.
Okay.
Sign me up. I want an invitation.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But one of the people who commented, and I can't remember who, and that's fine, obviously like complimenting having dinner at your house, was kind of saying like how cool it was to see your family and all your kids at the table. I think you said a little bit like you want people to see how fun it is or see how great it is. So what do you want to share about that?
So I do Shabbat dinner for a lot of not just conservative, but mostly conservative people who work in Washington.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it forever. And one of my children famously farted on Tiffany Justice.
Oh, no. Seriously?
The founder of Moms for Liberty.
Yeah.
And it was funny because afterwards, so we went to the White House when President Trump disbanded the Department of Education. And President Trump gave her a shout out and whatever. And my daughter afterwards came up to me and was like, we did not know that Tiffany was important. And you should have disclosed that so that she didn't get farted on. And I was like, or you could just not fart on anyone. And the kids were like, okay.
Take it under consideration.
We see your point. I shouldn't have to disclose this person might get a shout out from the president in order not to get farted on. So, there was another guest, Matt Whitlock, who him and his wife were fed glitter because the kids dumped glitter into the bread dough, into the challah dough. And I didn't know until we were cutting into it. The kids announced it. And to their great credit, they ate it anyway. I leaned over. I was like, you really probably shouldn't. That's not.
Go right
I don't know. So, I mean, they're not perfect dinners.
Sure.
I think it's important for people to see it, to see. And I've heard this from so many, especially young women, but young men too, that there's this real, I mean, like the doomer stuff is really a problem on the left and the right.
Yeah.
And it's the woke left and it's the woke right. And a lot of it is nihilism. That's the root cause. And so to give people, first of all, a window into a Jewish family, I think is very valuable.
Yeah.
But giving people a window into a family is also very valuable because a lot of people come from small families or children of divorce. I did. And I just remember going to that dinner in Israel, and that was a life-changing experience for me. Not because it was in Israel, but it was because I saw a family up close that had 8 children. And it was something that I wanted to do. And I never thought I would want to do that until I saw it in person. And I believe strongly, and this is why your podcast is so important, because you're giving, and your book, giving people windows into like, this is what it's actually like. Yeah. And that is invaluable because you can read all of the theory and all of the philosophy and all, but reading people's stories and hearing people's stories is invaluable. And hearing that you can do it imperfectly was so important for me to hear in my early motherhood journey. Yeah. Giving me that room to be like, I can still be the person who likes to write for the New York Times or the Washington Post or write a magazine column. I joke my New York Post editor, because I write for the New York Post very frequently, and she'll call me and say, hi, are you at the playground? I'm like, yes, I am. What could I do for you? And she's like, can you write this on your phone in the next 2 hours? I'm like, yes, I can. Yeah. I can write a column for you on my phone in the next 2 hours from this playground. And I do. Yeah. And I think that was important for me to know that I could do at the time. Yeah. So,
That's amazing. I mean, it's heroic and amazing. And I'm guessing somebody's listening to this who's kind of like never thought about it that way. Yeah. I love the story about being in Israel and kind of seeing what it would look like to have a bunch of kids. A bunch of kids who all love each other.
Yes.
It's really a great story.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts? Things people get wrong? Things you just are sick of hearing?
So I am going to be uncharacteristic and go negative on my last thought. The thing that has surprised me the most is how loud it is. It is the one thing that I'm 12 years in and I cannot adjust to the volume. Yeah. Do you have this problem as a child of a large family?
Yeah. Well, I did. I mean, I came from a large family and then I had a large family, so it wasn't surprising, but we did. And now it's like real quiet. Now, like we've got one homeschooler left. The rest, we've got 3 boys that are in school after a number of years homeschooling. And she was out the other day, like all day. And I looked at my husband. It's just us and a couple of dogs. Like, this is really, the dogs don't really make noise. They just like sleep. So yes, but we did. There were times when, especially, and I think girls talk a lot. But then boys like charge around and make noise in a different way. So I guess I'm here to say like this too shall pass. But I'm also here to say I hear you.
It is so loud.
It's so loud. You know who I really feel for is the parents who don't have basements.
Yes. Like that was the first thing we did was renovate our basement.
Yeah. We have lived in places where, they don't have basements in the South. And we've lived in places where we've had terrible, gross basements, but however basement-y it is, you still get the kids downstairs. Because you need that respite. You throw them downstairs with a bunch of Legos. But you're in the boy mom club, so there's something to it. Well, thanks for sharing all of this. And, I just want to reiterate how sorry I am about all the suffering you lived through as a child. It isn't easy, but it's obviously forged you in a lot of ways.
It's a weird thing to say, but I'm now on the other side of it, very grateful. That's a very weird thing to say, but I would not be the person that I am today, and I would not have the life that I have were those things not to have happened. And I like my life, and it took a lot to get here, and I'm grateful for it. I wouldn't change it. It was really, really hard, but I'm glad that it all happened the way it did. It didn't have to happen all at the same time, but I always joke that my dad's suicide, I was like, really? Really? Couldn't have just been a motorcycle accident or something? It had to be extra tragic. But it was, it was forging. You're right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. A couple things. We're going to certainly have you back in a few years. I want to check back in and find out how it goes as your kids get through high school.
100%. We'll have Shabbat dinner before
and then we'll have Shabbat dinner, but after you come back from Israel, right? Because that's
in January.
Got a ways out, so we'll get that scheduled. And I'll bring a couple kids. I won't bring too many. They're mostly doing their own thing at this point. Thank you so much, Bethany.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you being one of the first.
I'm proud to have been a pioneer.